Today, we're going to explore if men can fall in love at first sight. Um, let's make sure this is working properly. Yes, it looks like it is. So, this is actually my perception of the TV show Love is Blind. Have you seen the show Love is Blind? If you have, the season 4, which just finished up. Oh, now my phone is going off. Please forgive me. I'm fumbling here a bit, but the show Love is Blind, which I recently watched all the episodes and then watched the reunion, and it's a show where couples get into these pods. They're blind to each other, and they get to know each other in this environment of anonymity. And what I mean by anonymity is they don't know what each person looks like physically. And yet, what happens in this show is quite fascinating because couples seem to fall in love with each other before they actually meet. They claim they fall in love with each other. I just think they fall in like with each other. And during this process, afterwards, the man typically or the woman can invite the other person to get engaged. And if they get engaged, they get to go on to the next phase of the show where they go on a honeymoon, and then they spend about a month together living together, and then they have to go through a marriage ceremony to see if they're going to actually choose to stay together or not. Okay. So if you watch this last season, season 4, there was a lot of hiccups in there. And certainly I found it very entertaining to watch the couples. There was actually 3 marriages that occurred out of this, which is quite surprising for that show. I don't think they have that good of odds. And it seems like, and it's been a year later, and they're still married with one another. And there were some twists and turns that went along the way. Okay. That's the premise of the show. If you watched it, give me a shout out and let me know what you thought about the show. And if you're on live right now, you can ask questions about my perception of the show in the chat box. Okay, with that said, can men fall in love at first sight? Well, okay, so is love blind? Let's kind of put that in the same category. Can we fall in love with a person beyond what they physically look like? Or can we fall in love instantly with a person? Well, I don't believe that's the case. I believe it's impossible to fall actually in love with a person whom either you haven't met or you haven't spent time with. Now, here's my criteria for this, for love, is do these two people really love each other? Because love isn't just about the good things in a relationship. Love isn't just about, all the candles and the romance and the walks on the beach and the moonlight and all that kind of stuff. That's not love. Love is really, are you going to wipe the vomit from a person's face if they're going through chemotherapy? Are you going to be there for them when they're having a critical crisis in their life? Are you going to care about their feelings so much that their feelings matter as much as your own feelings? Do you have the other person's best interest at heart? To me, that's really what love is all about. Love is, I'm here. You matter. We are important. I've got your back. I'm not going anywhere, and I only want you. I'm here means I'm present. I'm not thinking about an ex-girlfriend. I'm not thinking about some future woman I'd like to have in my life. I'm here. I'm present. You matter means I'm going to make time for you. This you matter to me. I'm going to set you as a priority. I'm not going to give breadcrumbs like so many people do. We are important. Our relationship is a separate entity. We will actually co-create this relationship together by actually mutually investing in one another. I'm here. You matter. We're important. I've got your back. That means we're a team in this together. We're in it together. We are a team. We are holding hands. I'm not going anywhere. It means I'm fully committed to this relationship. And lastly, I only want you. My heart, my body, my soul only wants you. I desire you. To me, in romantic love, that's what I'm love you means. So can you actually experience this when you first meet someone? I highly doubt you would be there for them during the tough times. Would you loan money to a person you just met at first sight? I highly doubt it. Would the couples on Love is Blind give money to one another? Would they give a kidney to one another, to this total stranger? I highly doubt it. And yet in these environments, and certainly the expectation that love is blind and love at first sight is impossible in my mindset. That's just my perception of it all. Can we care for someone that we've just met? Absolutely, we can have care. Could we even be there for someone that we haven't just met? Sure, we can do that for strangers even. But to truly love someone, to be there for them in the tough times, that's what really matters most. So, what I find interesting about the show is the premise of actually accelerating the relationship process. I love this idea of accelerating the relationship process. Would you rather know in 8 weeks the relationship isn't going to work out? And what I mean to say, versus spending 3 years with someone. Our current dating practice is just a long, drawn out version of what I call friends with benefits, because when you're dating, you're spending time with someone. But are you really getting to know them at a deeper level? Are you really asking the deeper questions to determine compatibility? And I don't believe that's happening today. Most relationships today, the highlight of your day is, how's your day going? Did you have a good day? I hope you had a good day. And more so, people spend more time on their smartphones texting one another than they actually engage in social activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends. That's the way I observe most relationships today. They're not digging deeper. They're not being radically honest with one another. They're not laying their cards on the table. And certainly the rules of engagement means you establish the standard you're looking for. Ladies, so many of you are quite silent in this capacity. What the TV show Love is Blind did is accelerated the process. Now, keep in mind, there are probably hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage that never made it to the show. You're seeing just a small snippet of what's going on, and it's produced for drama. Okay, I get it. Whether it was Micah and Paul, Kwame and Chelsea, what's his name? Oh God, I forgot. What's his name? The attorney's name. I just went blank here. And Bliss. God, why can't I remember his name? And anyways, and Brett and Tiffany. All right. Interesting. Oh, and then there was Josh and Jacqueline. I mean, these were interesting dynamics to watch. And yet it kind of represents our current dating marketplace, where there's multiple in the pod, you're talking to multiple people, you're basically dating multiple people at the same time. And yet the one thing I appreciate is at least they made a commitment to explore a relationship. That was the engagement. And certainly, oh my God, what's his name who dumped Irina and went for Bliss? Why can someone write down his name? I can't remember it right now. I'm just blanking on it for a moment. Certainly that happens in dating, not quite ghosting happens in this environment, but there's certainly pulling back and emotionally disappearing. Okay, so how does this relate to can men fall in love at first sight? I don't believe it's healthy to believe in love at first sight. I believe we can have lust at first sight. I think we can have limerence at first sight. And Zach is his name. Thank you. I kept wanting to say Kyle. I knew it was Zach. Anyways, I think we can have lust at first sight. I think we can have limerence at first sight. Limerence is extreme infatuation. In fact, this is what love bombers do. Oh my God, you're so amazing. You're so wonderful. You're the most amazing person on the planet. I've never been with anyone like you. I'd like to marry you. He dates you. He has sex with you. And why does he ghost you after this amazing experience? See, it takes time to build trust. Jay Shetty says it takes about 40 hours just to begin to get to know someone. I always say it takes about 100 hours of face-to-face time just to build the first layer of trust. And Jay Shetty goes on to say it takes 200 hours of face-to-face time doing things together to actually develop a friendship with one another. Folks, we can't do it through our smartphones. We can't do it in pods. We can't do it through emails. We can only do this face-to-face to actually get to know someone. And this is what I see so many of you falling into this trap. And I invite you all to recognize that the sooner you ask the tougher questions, the sooner you experience the reality of life, the better chance you have for success. Again, many of you are in what you think are relationships. What I said previously is just friends with benefits. You just don't know about it because you're afraid to ask the deeper questions. Folks, if you're not familiar with my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, and Spiritual Work. By the way, a link below to get a copy of my book. Chapter 1, speak your truth. Do it with kindness. And yet many of you have duct tape over your mouth. You can't even hear what you're saying, because you're afraid to speak up. And let me just say this, if it's sincere and from the heart, this is chapter 9, you really can't say the wrong thing to the right person. Speak up and ask for what you want. I know it's hard. You might lose a person, but guess what? When you actually start with radical honesty, laying your cards on the table and the rules of engagement, you have a greater chance of relationship success. And if you need help with that, schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link below. All right. If you want, I think you get the gist of where I'm going. Okay, today's live broadcast, even if you're listening to the recording, this is meant to be fun. I'd love, if any of you watched Love is Blind, we can talk about that. We can answer any questions you want. We're going to take questions now. If you're familiar with my format, write the word question, then post the question thereafter, or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. That's a picture of him right there in the Obey shirt. It's my son who passed away almost 5 years ago. In his honor, we've started a scholarship fund to donate to causes like the Hoffman Process and Insight Institute, just to name a few. All right, so if you have a question, write the word question. I see we have people on: Roller Girl, Bree White, Ingamy Baby, Renee, Margaret, Corny Cobb. Corny Cobb says, will they wipe the vomit from your face off your face? I know that's a descriptive term, but if you really think about love is being there for the person when they're going through tough times. That's what real love is. Love isn't about the good times. And I think many of you ladies have a capacity to give your power away to men. And I want to share with you some of the ways you give your power away to men. The relationship is on his terms. You abandon your standards and your boundaries. You're afraid to speak your truth with him. You're afraid to share with him that you like him and that you want something more out of this, and you're afraid that it has to be all on his terms because you just sit back in your feminine energy and you're waiting for the man to lead. Yeah. Men are in the driver's seat because men make the ultimate commitment. Think about it. We've been indoctrinated with men make the commitment. And what that means to say is men are the one who do the asking of marriage. So if you think about it, we have this systematic approach throughout the, millennia, excuse me, where men make the final choice of commitment. Why do they get that privilege? Why aren't you making that choice? At least in the show Love is Blind, I think one season, one of them asked the other for marriage. I don't know if they're still together. It was that European woman. Anyway, going off on a tangent. You're afraid to speak your truth to him. When the relationship ends, all you do is focus on him. You're waiting for him to initiate contact all the time. This is the ways women give their power away. You stop doing your pre-relationship life. You abandon everything for a guy. You're feeling like you can't live without him, and you also might feel like he's the only one you'll ever have chemistry with. Ladies, let me just be clear. One of my contemporaries says, there's always another bus coming around the corner. I want you to think in those terms. It's raining great men. It's raining great men. It's raining great men. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know. Please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel. All right, let's see what kind of questions we have so far. We have Lori that says, question, should you let a coworker take you out on a date? I was told never shit where you eat. Okay, that's a phrase. I didn't make that up. But be careful going out with coworkers. First off, I would certainly want to know your company policy on sexual harassment. If it's certainly a coworker versus someone who's in a superior position, you're in a subordinate position, that sort of thing. Can you? You can always do whatever you want. Should you? That's a good question. If it doesn't work out, how uncomfortable will it be? Think about it when you could you imagine if you slept with someone and then they broke up with you? Believe me, you got to be careful, because when after the chemistry wears off, you might find yourself going, God, I don't want to be around this person ever again. So you got to take those into account. So great question there, Lori. Thank you so much. All right. Question, do you think it should always be men proposing and not vice versa? Great question. Well, I think we're in a time where, listen, this is a great question. Think about it. If you asked a man to marry you and he said no, okay, he said no, that leaves an interesting conversation, because the question would be why? And in that why, you might uncover that this person has no intent of ever doing anything more serious with you. I think you might want to consider doing that. I think it actually puts your cards on the table sooner rather than later, which most people do. So I do like the idea. But if he says yes, you better make sure you're compatible with one another. So great question. Thank you so much. Stacy writes, question. What is someone says it will take years for them? It's been 3 years and he's opening up. Was cheated on several times. Oh, he was cheated on several times. Listen, at midlife, we don't have time to mess around, okay? I think after 3 years, first off, after the first year, if you're not actively talking about moving in together or getting married, if that's not an active conversation, I want to encourage you to begin this conversation, because the real question is, what's the point of this? Does it really take 3 years to get to know someone? No, when you're seeing each other on a regular basis, there's my sweetheart, Marie. Her and her parents got married in 12 days, spent 60 years together. Excuse me. So yeah, does it take 3 years to get to know someone? No, it doesn't. You know someone inside of a year. And if anyone says otherwise, that's absolute crap. When you go through 4 seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter, or you can start with summer, because it's always the chemistry that you go through a fall, a winter, and then a spring, and you revitalize the relationship again. I don't think it should take 3 years, but yes, if after the first year, you should be having conversations, because what's the point? That's really, in fact, you should have those conversations sooner rather than later, in my opinion. So thank you so much. Let's keep going. Courtney Cobb says, always most resonant content. Thank you so much. Power of Chi says, I'm not proposing marriage to anyone. Well, good for you. You don't have to do this. This was just, it's an option. But thank you for sharing. Cece says, question, before Marie moved in, how did you begin your relationship? Did you do FaceTime or many calls? Okay, great question for those. All right, just a really backstory. My sweetheart Marie and I, we met through Match.com. She lived in Chicago. I live in Los Angeles. She wrote me an email. I rejected her. She wrote me a follow-up email. And I reject her because of the distance. She wrote me a follow-up email. Said, I grew up in Los Angeles. I have 2 children that live in Los Angeles. I have many friends who live in Los Angeles. And I don't like the cold weather in Chicago. Okay, that prompted a phone call. We talked on the phone. We had a couple phone calls, but we basically said if we're ever in town, we'd meet each other. We didn't begin exploring getting to know each other other than, hey, let's just be Facebook friends. And if we're ever in town, if I'm in Chicago, she's in LA, we should connect. Okay. It took over and we had several phone calls. It was COVID. We talked maybe maybe 7 or 8, 10 times in the course of a year before we physically met. Once we physically met, we had a great time. I invited her to a wedding. First we met, then I invited her to a wedding. And then what happened after that, she came to visit me 2 weeks later to visit her daughter or children. And then we spent 4 days together. After that 4 days together, she came 2 weeks later and spent 12 days with me. After that, she came 2 weeks later. She spent 18 days here and we took a trip to Cancun. Now, in the in-between time, we would text each other. We would do FaceTime. Actually, we did WhatsApp video with one another. And by the time we came back from Cancun, we realized if this is going to work, if we're going to really explore a relationship, then we have to live in the same city. And then we talked about it. We found a place. And within 5 months of meeting, we actually moved in together. And we did FaceTime and telephone calls in between. I did visit her in Chicago twice. I spent 1 week there, came back 2 weeks later, spent 3 weeks there, helped her pack and move. Then she came here. That's the quick version of how that happened. So Cece, I hope that answered your question. Letty says, thank you, Jonathan. I really need to hear this. You are awesome. So happy. Renee says, how well done. Wait, 100%. How well do you like your job? Love my job. Okay, next question. Marta. Sorry, I'm terrible with names. How can we tell the difference between love at first sight? There are those stories of people who knew on the first date and love bombing. Okay. They didn't really know on the first date. All they really did know is that they liked this person a lot on the first date. And they liked the person a lot on the second date. And I liked the person a lot on the third date. And by the time they were exploring a relationship together, the person looks back and says, I knew this from the very first date. All they experienced on the very first date is very strong like for one another. Okay. Again, love is being there for one another. Would you lend $10,000 to a person you met on a first date? Probably not. So I don't think you love that person on the first date. That's just I look at it from the point of view is, would you lend them money? And would you, if they were in a terrible car accident, would you sit by their side for months while they recuperate? If you can do that from a first date, more than you are a saint. And I don't believe saints. I believe there's very few saints on this planet. That's my perception on that one. So thank you so much. Cece said, before Marie moved in, how did you start building? Oh, I shared that. Okay. Bree says, I'm 50 and I've been running a mantra since my early 30s, all 4 seasons, and then some. It's always worked for me. You need time to get to know someone before making a major decision. Again, the TV show Love is Blind is they're thrust into it very quickly. And I wonder if that isn't better. I'm not saying it is. I'm just wondering if you should just dive in, see if it works versus spending years only to find yourself single after 3 years when you could have found out in 8 weeks. Anyways, that's the premise of the show, in my opinion. All right, Gina writes, question. Do you believe in a deep connection at first sight? By the way, I love the karaoke video. Thank you so much. I believe you can, again, I think you can like someone a lot, but I don't believe, and I believe you can have a connection with someone. The reality is a relationship is a building block of time together, doing social activities, doing hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends. So I believe you can have a connection, but you still have to invest a minimum of 100 hours of face-to-face time just to build the first layer of trust. The next layer of trust is 200 hours. The next layer of trust is 500 hours of face-to-face time. That's literally a half a year could be of time. So anyways, it takes time to build trust. Anyways, thanks for your question. Power of Chi says, Porsche billionaire files for divorce from wife 74 because she has dementia. He moves in with his side piece, 59. Yep, I don't think, that's not real love. Hopefully he's taking care of her in other ways. But anyways, Renee says, sorry, Jonathan, sorry, that was a rhetorical question for Laura, referring to the dating in the workplace. I got it. Thank you so much. Well, I take these questions on face value. Let's see. Bree says, it's all good for TV. And I believe me, I love the show, but 99% of those couples are not together today, even if they said yes on the wedding day. Well, yeah, that's true. But you know what? I find the show fascinating from the premise of the incubator. I'm a big proponent of not rushing the process, but I'm a big proponent of real deep conversation. Like if 2 people are physically attracted to one another enough to have sex with one another, then ladies, You have every right to ask any deep question you want. You have every right to ask as many deep questions. You have every right to ask, where's this relationship going? If his penis gets to spend time in your vagina, you have every right to ask the deeper questions and to really qualify this person. Is he legit or not? Because we got a lot of emotionally dysfunctional human beings out there with terrible relationship skills. You have every right to find out as much about their past, their nooks and crannies, their past relationships, if you're going to have sex together. And anyone who says otherwise, he's gaslighting you. He's gaslighting you. All right. Hope that helps. So thank you so much. Bree said, I love that part of the show as well, but truly it's all for reality TV. I agree that, but at least the show basically implies that in their pods, they ask deeper question than how's your day going? Today's dating is all about how's your day going? People, listen, if you want to have a better experience, then I invite you to go deeper than the surface. Okay. Marta asks a question. You might have answered this before, but how did you and Marie handle the physical side of the relationship when you met, if you don't mind me asking? Well, we handled it quite well. We had great sex. It happened fairly early in our relationship. And what I mean to say, it wasn't something that took a long time. It was part of the decision-making process for both of us. Folks, the reality is, whether we like it or not, sex is part of the decision-making process to commit to someone. She's told me in the past, if the sex wasn't good, she didn't want to be with a guy. If his penis was this size, she didn't want to be with a guy. I know you've said the same thing. That's just the reality of life. That's why love is certainly a lot more than just the emotional connection. It's the physical connection as well. In the TV show Love is Blind, how many of them actually looked at each other and go, shit, this isn't the person I thought it looked like? But coming back to it, the physical part, sex is an integral part of our relationship. And what I mean to say, physical and emotional intimacy is a critical part of our relationship. So to say otherwise is kind of naive, in my opinion. So anyway, thank you so much for that question. Stacy writes, question, how do I contact you to consult you to see if you can help me? Well, that's a great question. Folks, if you need some support on that, just look at right there, Stacy, right there, JonathanAsley.com/coaching. Check out the link below to schedule a discovery call with me. That could certainly help you get started, okay? All right, let's see. Gina wrote, in the beginning of my new relationship, he beat me to asking the deep questions. I was pleasantly surprised. Well, I know Marie said I was exhausting, but you know what? She said it's the part of me that she loves, is that I go beyond the surface. I go deeper than the casual that most people are doing these days. So I hope she appreciates it, and I hope this man appreciates it as well. Let me rephrase that. I went the other way around. I'm happy you appreciate that as well. And I slurped my drink there for a second. Let's see. I think they see the woman that someone they would want to be in love with. But if they don't know, they really don't know who they are until they get to know them. It's exactly it. Listen, this is why a lot of you, I know a lot of ladies that literally are so attached to a man, and all you've been doing is texting for months and months and months. It's not a real connection, just like the TV show. It's not real until it's real. Can someone write that in the chat box? It's not real until it's real. You have to physically be in each other's presence to build a relationship together. Okay, that's just my 2 cents on that. And Roller Girl says physical connection matters. Now he punishes with neglect. He's moving out Friday, he says. Well, I'm sorry to hear that's happening to you. Wanda writes, question. I'm guessing the physical attraction is different than growing connection. Should they grow together? So, someone asked me recently, would you have still wanted to be with Marie if she wasn't attractive? Well, I don't like the guessing. They asked, would Marie still want to be with you if you weren't a blogger, a coach, a vlogger, that sort of thing, podcaster. I don't like those what if questions. But at the same time, I believe that, we're not each other's ideal partner. We both said to each other, we'd wished we met each other 10 years or 15 years earlier when we didn't have as many wrinkles. We both have said that to each other. Okay. The fact I do what I do allows to support our mutual lifestyle. And though we're both mutually invested in this relationship, this allows for a lifestyle of allowing us to speak to you, together as well. So my point is, physical attraction is part of the equation. Someone's social status is part of the equation. It's not all of the equation, but it's part of the equation. And to say anything less is being naive, in my opinion. So thank you so much. Cheryl said, can a man pretend for 19 years because he told me he loved me until 2 months before we divorced? He was blurted out he loved me, loved someone else. The word love has a lot of different meanings for people. Do you realize this? The word love, think about it. This is just my perception on this. I got a scratchy nose. People that say I love you and then physically hit you. People that say I love you and abuse you. People I love you and emotionally denigrate you. They all say I love you, but people can do mean things under the guise of love. That's just my perception anyway. It's the actions over time that matters most. All right. It's all right says, my hubby says it was love at first sight. I thought he had a crush on my best friend working at the desk beside me. I wasn't attracted to them all, but we were 20 and dumb. Love is easier. Certainly when you're in your 20s, it's a lot different than certainly today because we have a lot more life experience. But again, I suspect he had a strong attraction for you at first sight. But again, love, will they be there to wipe the vomit off your face when you're going through chemotherapy? That's the question. Because I highly doubt that would have been the case on the first date. Power of Chi says, we're visual creatures, but it's not the end all be all. Exactly. Hey, let's see what you say here. If you met her 15 years ago, would you still be together? That's a what if question you probably won't like. You know what? I think if we had met after our divorce, we weren't ready for each other. I don't believe we're ready for each other. But if we are who we are today, and we met 15 years ago, I really don't envision. I don't envision it not being someone I'd want to be with. I just don't envision that. Again, it's a what if question, so I don't know the answer to that, but I can't envision that. So thank you. Hey, you know what, folks? Listen, I was hoping we'd get a discussion on Love is Blind. No one's posted comments on that other than reminding me that Zach. I found it an interesting show. I hope you found it an interesting show. I hope you found value in this content about can men fall in love at first sight. As I said earlier, I don't believe we can fall in love at first sight. We can have lust or limerence or like or connection. But I think real love happens over time when you've built trust with one another and you really genuinely will be there for each other like teammates. And that does take time to build. Hope you found value in this broadcast. If you did, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Also, if you have something to say, post a comment below. If you'd like to speak to me and talk about coaching, or you want to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery, or get copies of the books I recommend, all in the show notes. There's a bunch of links that you can click, and follow me on Instagram and all those good places. All right, I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, give myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow. Give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye now. Bye. I want to thank Lady B, It's All Right, Cheryl, Harlow, Nobleness, Nutrition, Gina, Christine, Power Chi, Roller Girl, Lady B, Margaret, all you, Susan, Stacy, thanks so much. Have a fab evening. Bye now.